In 2016, I flew to Peru, and I planned to go to a city called Iquitos. Now, Iquitos is famous for being the biggest city in the world that you can't reach by car. It's so deep in the Amazon jungle that there are only two ways to get there. One, a 2-hour plane ride, and two, a 4-day cargo ship ride on the Amazon River. Now, being a 22-year-old backpacker trying to live off $30 a day, what option do you think I took? The cargo ship, of course. Once I arrived in Peru, I took 3 buses, 3 vans, and 2 cars to get to a small town near the Amazon River called Yurimaguas, and I boarded a cargo ship called the Eduardo Ocho and set out on my journey to Iquitos. Now, you're probably asking yourself, Austin, what does this story possibly have to do with index investing? Because in the title it says index investing. Well, I can explain the entirety of index investing from this boat ride on the Amazon River to Iquitos. But before we get into that, let's just talk about the basics of index investing, and let's start off by asking the question, what is index investing? Index investing is a strategy where instead of buying individual stocks, you buy something called an index fund. Now you might be asking yourself, what is an index fund? An index fund is basically a group of stocks that tracks a market index. So for example, when you buy one individual stock like Apple, you're buying into one company. But when you buy an index fund, you're buying into one fund that represents a group of stocks. For example, like the S&P 500. The S&P 500 is composed of the top 500 companies in the United States. It tracks the overall performance of the market. So instead of buying one stock, you're basically buying the entire market. On average, there will be a 10% return each year. Some years, it might be better. In other years, it might be worse. But on average, you can expect a 10% return. So if you had $1,000 invested, in 1 year, you might expect to gain $100 in interest. And you can choose to buy index funds like VTSAX or SWPPX that will track the market index like the S&P 500. Now, I'm not a financial advisor, and this is not financial advice, and you should always do your own research before making any decision. But I choose to invest in index funds for 3 reasons. 1, it's generally safer than buying individual stocks. 2, it doesn't involve much thinking or research. And 3, history shows us that over time it goes up. As I said in the beginning of this video, I can explain how I view index investing from this simple boat ride on the Amazon River. And I think that if you can understand the simple boat ride that I took on the Amazon River, then you will understand how index investing works. So this is the story. When I first arrived in the town of Yurimaguas, the first thing I did is I got on the boat. Well, actually, I went to the grocery store and bought enough food and snacks for the trip, and then I got on the boat and I set up my hammock. But this is the same thing with index investing. You have to start off by just getting on the boat because you're not going to go anywhere until you get on the boat. When I first started index investing, I was a bit leery because I thought that I was going to lose all my money. But what I did is I just started off by putting small amounts in until I was more comfortable to put bigger amounts. But that's the first step. You have to start off just by getting on the boat. And then you can do the next step, and you have to trust that the boat's eventually going to go. Now, when I got on that boat, there was no sign that said what time we were going to go. Typical to South American culture, we were just going to go when everything was ready. So that could be today, it could be tomorrow, it could be next week. But I knew that I could trust that the boat would eventually go. Now, index funds aren't as risky as stocks, and there will be times when you lose money. But historically, the market goes up. And you have to trust that eventually it will go. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, maybe not this year, but you have to trust that the market will eventually go up. And once you do that, you move on to the next step and you tell yourself, you're the passenger. As I mentioned, I got on the boat, I set up my hammock, and I was along for the journey. I was the passenger. I wasn't the captain. I had no control of when and where the ship was going to go. And this is the same thing with index investing. Prices are going to fluctuate over time, but you have to realize that you're the passenger. You're not in control. Index investing is a passive form of investing, so you don't need to worry about these little small details along the way because you're the passenger and you're in it for the long run. And then you go to the next step and you have to also realize that even the captain doesn't know when we're going to go. I stayed on the boat for about 24 hours without it going anywhere. And the next morning, I went to the front of the ship and I remember I was talking to the captain and I asked him, when are we going to leave? And he said, no sé, I don't know. Even the captain of the ship didn't know when we were going to go. And this is the same thing with the market, because there is a whole industry in the stock market of people trying to tell you what is going on. Just go into Google and type in S&P 500 and you'll see all different types of articles of people explaining why the market is going up or why the market is going down. The interesting thing about the stock market is that no one really knows what's going on. A lot of it is just based off human emotion. You'll see a lot of articles of people predicting what's going to be the new Tesla, what stock you should sell, what stock you should buy. But in reality, no one really knows what's going on. So don't fall for the hype to buy a stock or sell a stock, because even the captain doesn't know what's going on. And then when you tell yourself that, you do the next step and you don't get off the ship. I was on that boat for 48 hours until it finally took off, but I had to stay on that boat for 48 hours because if I left the boat, I was going to risk losing everything I had on the boat. And this is the same thing with index investing. Whenever there's a dip in the market or the recession, you have to stay on the boat because you won't lose anything as long as you don't sell, as long as you don't leave the boat. Once we started going, we were so deep in the Amazon jungle that under no circumstances was it a good idea to leave the boat. I knew when I was on the boat, I was safe. And once you know that, you have to realize that the boat is always moving forward. This was probably one of the slowest boats in the world, but I knew that the boat was going forward. And this is the same thing with index investing. There will be some rough patches along the journey, and there's going to be times where it's extremely boring and it's not moving slow because it's a very passive form of investing. It's not like trading stocks. But you have to understand that the boat is moving forward. Even in times when you are going back, you are still going forward, because you have to remember that you are the passenger and you do not have control over the speed that the boat is going. And then you do the most important thing and the key quality to success in investing, and that's you have patience. If there was one thing I took away from this boat ride, it was the importance of patience. I sat on that boat 48 hours before we left, and it was 4 days, 3 nights on one of the slowest boats in the world. Patience is the most important thing with investing. Warren Buffett said that the stock market is a device for transferring money from the impatient to the patient. Most people lose money in the stock market because they're not patient. They're not willing to weather out the storm and they just panic sell. But if you have patience in the market, it will pay off. And then once you do everything I mentioned, then you finally sit back in your hammock and realize that the journey is the destination. It's a cliche, but it's true. Every piece of this experience was incredible. Setting up a hammock, talking to the captain, telling me that he doesn't know when we're going to go, and spending 4 days cruising down the Amazon River on a cargo ship full of bananas. It was unforgettable. And it takes an experience like this to realize that life is not about who can get to the destination the quickest. It's not about who has the nicest mode of transportation. Life is about the journey, because the journey really is the destination. Index investing is a very passive form of investing. All you have to do is get on the ship, be the passenger, and go along with the journey. I plan on holding my investments forever because I believe that the point of investing is to grow your money. And when you grow your money, you have more security in life and you can take more risks and do what you want without the burden of any financial fears. I am so fascinated with money because money is a game that society has created to control our lives. And the path to simplicity is understanding the game. And when you understand the game, you can live a simple life.